in this exclusive module to how to control stress eating. And obviously week number 4, it's all about beat binge eating and obviously the food demon that we have, and basically whatever that's sweet or sour or salty, it's really that know that we are in control of everything that we can obviously control. Now, every time you want to really beat binge eating, yo-yo dieting, and of course control, psychological eating, stress eating is really going to be a big factor. Okay, we know that stress is really involved in a lot of our deviation, and every time that we say to ourselves, we're busy, we're stressed, and we just let ourselves go, and I really fell for this food that I know I shouldn't have fell for, it's really for stress. It's really that you do need to understand a little bit, first of all, that you are in control of it. Obviously your brain is in control of it, but a lot of people tend to believe that stress is something that just happened to you, and therefore it's almost like an excuse that obviously allows you to eat. Okay, now on the chemistry level or biological level, this is really what happens in your brain when you actually take those decisions and eating, right? Our brain lights up in different parts of the brain, and basically to go one layer deeper, if the way it lights up, it doesn't really light up all at once. It really lights up in different places, as well as in different of course, like intensities, right? So if the cortex lights up, if the top part that you see here lights up, this is basically the rational part. Okay, this is basically the parts that really, which is basically here, that really get you to see the apple. Let's say you see an apple as an apple, right? Like you would tend to take a good decision. You would say, I'm just gonna eat an apple today because I am motivated to actually do a good job and actually do this nutritional choice and everything. And again, this is kind of like the rational part of the brain, the cortex, right? Like the top part, the side part, but basically the top of the brain. Now, the other part that can lights up is usually the emotional part. Okay, and as you go much into the inside part of the brain, where the amygdala is, as well, of course, the reptilian brains that you would see there on the bottom, if that thing lights up in the middle or in the bottom, this is more the primitive or instinctive part of the brain. Okay, this is the part that is responsible to make you see now this apple as a monster, like here, and obviously is able to make you take irrational decision. This is kind of like when you hit for impulse, okay, so to speak. So how do you actually tend to make rational choices? Okay, you could probably ask me, okay, now that I know all that, whether you did know it before or not, now how do I actually go and actually see the apple all the time? Well, like you must understand stress, you must understand stressor, you must understand how the brain works and how you make choices. And we will see stress still later on in the course, but stress by eating and stress in general is pretty much something connected. Okay, so you must understand and justify stress versus justifying the stressor. Okay, here you see a woman that she's pretty stressed out. Okay, and so the emotion you feel, right, the anger emotion, the anxiety emotion, the frustration emotion, you might feel emotional, you might really feel helpless at time. This is the stress. This is something that we manufacture. This is something that we create. Okay, these are emotions. These are emotions that we kind of like experience as a result of experiencing a stressor. Now, and when you experience a stressors, which is basically the source of stress, the stress ourselves out, it could be something, something more important or less important, okay? Let's say a family member getting sick. It could be, a mirror not reflecting the image you want to reflect. It could be a dog dying, your dog dying maybe, getting fired. It could be, conversation with your boss, right, which you're not expecting. It could be moving. It could be flying, where some people don't like to fly. It could be, different kind of problem to the degree that you want to actually experience. And again, this conversation goes well for stress for eating or obviously stress in general. Okay, now stressors is things that are really, really tangible, that are existing. Now the funny thing is that whether it's a mirror reflection that you don't want to see, or is basically a conversation with your boss, or any sort of small little inadequate problem, such as waking up in the morning and hitting your knee, against the wall, and then like going to work and having a conversation with your boss, and then kind of like getting stressed out. This is as in your body, which experience a bunch of emotions, which you see on the bottom here, is the same, or like is typical, similar, the same, like saying somebody getting fired or somebody seeing a family member getting sick, right? The body will react and will experience a bunch of emotion. Now, when you to understand how can you not eat for stress, you really need to understand how do you control your stress. You don't you need to control your stress. You cannot control really your stressors. Your stressors are gonna be there. Okay? So you must really understand, is this a valuable source of stress? I mean, me being stressed out here for a project at work, or being the kind of like person that overwork, is not the same such as a stress of your dog passing away. Okay? The dog passing away is probably something that you should feel sad about, something that obviously impacts your life. You feeling stressed because you feel like you cannot really get all the work done, obviously, that's a less justifiable stressors, right? I mean, you could say, okay, cool, I'm getting fired, but yet, if you know that you're supposed to get a job done in a specific time frame, and if you know that that time frames, it takes more time that you can actually do, that you can actually work, there is only going to be an amount of time you can work, right? So every time that you experience a stressors, right, and you in fact then experience stress as a result of the stressors, how do you medicate that, right? Like, how do you not fall into these traps, such as just falling for those foods? There are different ways you can do it, but one of the ways you definitely want to take into consideration is actually go with your mind in an amazing place. Whether if you're a mountain person or if you're a beach person, you really want to go into this special place, right? Every time you experience stress, and as a result you will eat, since we're talking about eating for stress here, like, you will find time to actually do that. You will find time to make those not so intelligent choices, like those irrational choices, right? So if you have time to eat, you definitely have time to check in with your mind. You have time to actually go to this place, relaxing place. You have time to stop 2 minutes in your day and meditate, and do like we do in our second chess program here, that we say, okay, cool, like, you close your eyes, you can lay down if you want, like, you just concentrate on your breathing. Every time your mind wanders away, you take back the mind and you put it back into your breathing, right? Or you let the mind wander into this amazing place that you see here, right? Now, it's not so easy because, like, obviously some people tend to think that the answer is cut and dry. There is not such a way, like, contrary to a lot of obviously theory out there, that you can control stress and you should be doing a lot of questioning and answering kind of thing with yourself. There is no such a clear answer. It's like you really need to take a decision. Like, if you are the procrastinator, right? I mean, if you're a person that tends to procrastinate anything, and you know that a project takes 2 weeks, and now you have to do everything in a week, there is no sense of you stressing out for that. You can only work this amount of time, right? You can only work at this amount of time, and as you see this specific scenario here, you would have a person eating in front of the computer, and because that you have to stay there, right? If you eat in front of a computer, this is gonna escalate in another chain of events, right? You're eating fast, or you're not eating enough, or even worse, you're fasting, you're not eating at all. Like, you're gonna get home later, and this might lead to an emotional eating and binge eating. Now, the funny parts, as I see this all the time, people tell me, I couldn't really eat and I end up binging because I was stressed, because I couldn't control my stress. So how do you control your stress? There is no magic answer. There is no amount of things you will look into online and find, and telling you there is an answer for it. There is no answer, only the rational part. Okay, so how do you do that, right? You must understand, for once, that any choice is unique, right? You will need to really focus on your thoughts, right? Stress is thoughts. On the left side here, you will see all these things. You will see fear, you will see anxiety, you will see kind of like, sick, tired, overworked, right? And all this basically are stress emotions, right? As we saw before, frustrations, right? Now the stressors, right, as you see over here, is actually the job, is the debt, is the payments, is the headache because you had a conversation you didn't want to have, right? So the idea here is not to reduce the stressor. There is no win in reducing the stressor, right? The events that cause you to be stressed, there is no win on reducing that. Why? Because if you reduce that, you eventually gonna find something else to put that in place of that. And then, like, if you no longer have payment to make, something else will happen. Like I said, unfortunately, maybe somebody getting sick, and you will still experience the same thing because you do not learn how to cope. So every single stressor creates stress that we manufacture, that we create. So the idea here is to control that particular emotion. Those emotions you can control, like I said, with meditation, with you checking in, right? With you making those choices and with you remembering those choices. Meaning, like, if you know that eating fast at the work got you to binge eat yesterday, and now you feel really bloated and you feel really guilty and worse about that, chances are tomorrow, like, you will not do the same thing. Like, when lunchtime comes up, you really should take 10 minutes, extra 10 minutes of your time and actually have a good food choice, right? Likewise, if you don't eat the whole day and you get home in front of the TV and then you tell yourself, oh, I'm stressed, I'm just gonna let myself go and I'm gonna eat, the present moment is when you actually need to do the work. This is really the only way you're gonna ever grow, okay? You cannot imagine how many times in my life, in my career, I heard people telling me, I'm gonna take care of the stress, and then as soon as I do that, then it's gonna be the time for me to take care of my health, right? I'm gonna take care of this first, right? The stressor, the stress part, so that then I can take care of that, so that then I can start eating well, right? It's like saying you're gonna play blackjack, I'm not gonna play blackjack until I get the perfect hand to play blackjack or playing poker, right? No, you're gonna get the card that you've been dealt with, and you need to do the best you can with those, right? If you don't do that, not only you will not grow, the harder thing that will happen is that you keep telling yourself that you're never good enough to actually be able to practice, okay? And which this will definitely lead of you stopping all the time until one day you really tell yourself that starting over is no longer an option, and you say to yourself, I'm kind of like quitting forever because every time I do something, I experience resistance, I experience stress, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to learn from it, and I'm gonna start over when this stress is gone, which basically tells you that you have the incapability on actually dealing with your stress, okay? This is basically all we need to know about stressor reduction and stress control when you eat, okay, is as simple as that. Every unique choices, you're gonna have time to make that choice you shouldn't be making right now. And if you do decide to make it, this is really, really the outcome. What led you to make this decision? What was the stressor? Why I'm experiencing now this emotion? Is this emotion right now justified for this type of stressor? And should I actually eat this food? Like we did in the past. We did that a few modules back, controlling my thoughts. Is this a food that has benefits for me to eating this food right now? What are the benefits of not eating this food right now? What are my goals? I will simply delay my goals. I know that, right? So should I just go on eating it, or should not I just not go on eating it? Ladies, based on this module today, what I would like you to do in our group, I would like you to post an event after you see this video that changed when it comes to stress and eating stress or eating by stressors, okay? Focus on understanding the stressor, draw the line from the stress, understand if the stressor is justified, if it's something such as a dog dying or just simply watching yourself in the mirror and getting stressed. Understand the events itself, understand the emotion you're experiencing, is it mad, sadness, frustration, whatever, and understand the potential trigger. Am I about to eat something, right? What are the food sources that come out when I'm stressed, right? Is this attached to any emotion? I would like you to really dissect all the thing I just said right now and post in the group about your insights, okay? There is no easy or perfect way to do this. It's just about practicing and getting over and over things. Later in the course, we will talk about stress again. We will talk about things such as what leading to stress, such as self-deprecation, such as social comparison, such as perfectionism. Okay, we will talk about all these things, and from there, it will almost match, the idea of obviously healing for stress. This is the module itself. Just do the work, and I see you on the next video.